Right, let's get into today's case, because today's case is an important case, really. It covers domestic violence and it also covers the murder. It covers the murder of a 43-year-old woman, Sian Blake, and her two children was Zachary, I think age 8 at the time of his murder, and Amon, age 4 at the time of the murder. And they were murdered by Sian's partner and the children's father. So it's a domestic homicide, but it's a really sad case, this one, and has got some disturbing content, because I do state and read out what he says he did to them on the night of the 15th or the 14th or the 15th of December, because he's never really said which night it was, but that's when they died, the 14th or the 15th of December 2015 in London, in the UK. So he also says this Arthur Simpson-Kent was his name. He was 49 at the time of his these murders. He was also living with them in this household. He says that it was a joint suicide. He said a few different things, but one of the things he said, but this is a joint suicide, he was going to kill, they was all planning to do this joint suicide, so, you know, that was proven to be untrue. There was no way that that was going to happen. The actual reason why the police and the judges and the jury and everyone that looks into this case thinks is that he murdered her because she was leaving him. That's the real reason for this. And what he tries to say, there was no evidence at all that this was a murder-suicide pact between them. No way would Sian hurt her children in any way. It has actually been noted that before the murders, that, we'll go into her ill health in a minute and you can understand why I'm saying this, is that she was also looking for schools. She's also been to her family and made arrangements for these children and herself to leave this man, but we'll go into that in a little while down the road. So let's talk about Sian Blake, this British actress. She was not just an actress, actually. She was a director. She'd done lots of stuff. She'd worked on the West End stage and stuff. So she'd done a lot in her time, and she really enjoyed it. She loved being, on the stage. She was born in London. She was born in Walthamstow in London in 1972. She had attended the Guildford School of Acting, so she really wanted to be an actress from early on. I think her father was from Jamaica, and her parents, and I think she was one of 3 children. And I think you'll see a lot of her sister in different videos that they've done, and when they talk about this murder. So if you want to have a look more, her sister says quite a lot about this murder. But so her father was Jamaican. I think they divorced when she was about 6 years old, and then her father died of a heart attack when she was 18. So you could say really her character from that, when we talk about people that go into domestic relationships or have domestic violence in their relationships, their character's sort of built up from a young age. And I think with Sian, her character shows in when she played a TV character in this soap of EastEnders, which is massive, and most of you around the world would have heard of EastEnders, the TV soap show we've got here in the UK, which has been going since 1985. It's a great show. It portrays this East End culture, and Sian was in that, and her character that she portrayed, because I think, how can I explain it? EastEnders do this controversial stuff, really. They bring out issues which is generally out there in the community, and I think they really try and show issues that's happening in real life. And her character was portrayed as someone bad in this soap, but what happened is that a lot of characters in this soaps or any TV portrayal of a character, a lot of people that watch it believe their characters are real. So as Sian was getting into this character, and I think she'd done 56 episodes on EastEnders, she was getting actual real life death threats and stuff. She was being really harassed. A lot of harassment was coming from her character that she portrayed on this show. And that's not what she was about. She was this quite calm and, very quite soft personality that really couldn't handle it. And that's not what she got into acting for. So she left that show and then retired actually from acting. And then she became this sign language teacher and also an interpreter. So listen, this was a woman. It was a very talented woman. Lovely woman. Educated, was doing what she loved doing. And when she'd had enough of that because of other circumstances, she went on then to help others with this, sign language and interpretation skills. So this woman worked. She also had 2 children that she loved and adored. These 2 children, absolutely loved and adored them, and was getting on with her life. Now, she did have health issues, and she had motor neuron disease. Now, and this is where I think Arthur got this idea of trying to get away with this murder into this, saying it was going to be this joint suicide pact, because on, I think, the 11th of December, she was diagnosed terminally actually with this motor neuron disease, and it was really it showed its symptoms in 2013. So by 2015, it was really escalating up, and she was told that it was terminal. So she was making plans to get the children into different schools and sort the kids out and stuff like this. Nothing that you would do if you was going to do this mass suicide between you. That wasn't what she was about with these children. She wanted to leave these children in safety. She wanted to leave these children set up. This woman had worked all her life. She owned this home. That was her home. She'd worked for it, paid for it. And so there was no way that Sian in any way was going to harm these children. So we knew from that and from what the family have said that there was no way of what Arthur was saying about that was true. Now, she wanted to leave Arthur for a very long time, I think. But again, with a lot of people in domestic relationships that are like this, where he is controlling and stuff, she felt sorry for him, you see. And she told her family that if she left him, he would have nowhere to live, because the family, without doubt, would have locked this house up so he couldn't have got back in. They didn't like him. They just didn't. They knew what was going on. They didn't like him. And and they think that's why, really, in the end, he killed her, because she had told him, once she got this news that she was terminal and her life was going to end anyway, that she wanted to make sure that her children were the safest place that they could be. And I don't think she thought that was with him. I think she thought that was with her family. So about a week or so before her murder, she had told her family and had a talk with her family about moving back into their family home, because this woman was now terminal, with her children, but not with him. She had now, I think, come to the end, and I think when you're close to that end of life, the most important thing to her at that time was making sure that her children were safe, and her loyalty to this man and this feeling of feeling sorry for this man had diminished. She had no longer even that for him, and I don't think he could stand that. He really couldn't. And so what she done was, I think when she'd made all these arrangements with the family, she probably told him her plans. And as usual, when you have someone like this Arthur, who is so in control of you, and this narcissist that doesn't like this word no, he had very big grandiose ideas anyway about himself, that he killed her, and he killed them children, and then he fled back to Ghana. But let's go in to the day of the murder. On the 16th of December 2015, it was Sian's family that reported her missing to police. They had received texts and that from her saying that she was going away. She needed to get her head together, that she was going away and she was taking her children and she didn't want them having any influence over her at all in this. And this was sent to the family and the sisters. Well, of course, the family had only seen her a week before or a few days before. They had made all these arrangements for her to come and live with them. So they knew straight away something was wrong here. So I think the police, you know, you are talking about, and I you know, there was an investigation actually, or I think into this police itself, again about their quickness of this investigation and you know, belief in the family, because I think where Sian didn't really make much the domestic abuse known, it was the family's word against his, wasn't it really? He was a bit evasive when the family called the police and the police came round to see him. He didn't really want to let them in the home and stuff like this. In the end he did, and the police did have feelings about it, about something could have gone wrong. But when you're talking about someone that's been diagnosed terminally, you've got text messages from this woman saying that she just needs time, she needs time to sort her head out. I don't think the police really believed at that point that she'd been murdered. I think they believed him, and that was the wrong thing to do. And I think this is why the inquiry into the police, because you can't, you know, you can't just believe on face value what someone's telling you. If a family that really knows this woman well is telling you one thing, it's the family that you should listen to. Because a lot of times, especially in domestic abuse cases or domestic homicide cases, you know, the partner is the closest one you should look at first. And I think they didn't do that straight away here. So there was no evidence really of Sian gone missing, but there was some issues with this Arthur. So not only had Sian sent out these messages, or did she? No, she didn't. It was him. But he also got local charities round and cleared out all of their personal items of Sian and the kids. The clothing was all gone, everything was all gone. And what he couldn't give away to charity, he burnt in the back garden before he went off to Ghana. And how he got to Ghana was, I think he went to Glasgow airport via Amsterdam into Ghana, and then sent a text message to someone, one of his friends, and said, I've had to come to Ghana, you know, it's either, you know, because of things that I've done, it's either come to Ghana or die. And then the police really knew now that something's going on. But now you've got a perpetrator that needs to be extradited back from Ghana, because in the meantime now, the police have actually gone in to the home, and they have found, even though he's cleaned this home thoroughly, they have found bloodstains, because you can never get rid of it all, can you, really? There's always going to be something, no matter how much you clean. Now these days with the DNA and the testing and the, you know, analysis that they do. And then the next day they found 3 bodies buried in the back garden, and they were of Sian and the 2 children that he'd murdered. So let's go on now, because we know they brought him back, we know now he's standing trial, but there was a bit of issue with trying to get him back. He's, you know, they got him back from Ghana anyway, and he admitted then that he had killed them, but never really saying why. You know, saying first of all the suicide bit, and to try and get him an easier sentence, I think. And in the end, really, he didn't really say much. He just admitted to the murder. But I think it's quite clear why he murdered her, and that was because she was going to leave him and take his children away from him, because this man was not good in any relationship, and especially bringing up 2 children when the mother will no longer be there because she's been diagnosed as terminally ill, and at some point in the near future would have died. And I think this case is so sad, really, because he couldn't even let this woman die in peace. So let's go on now to what he says happened on the day of that murder. So Kent, you know, this Arthur Simpson-Kent, did return, I think, on the 12th of February 2016, voluntary in the end from Ghana, because there was no way that this British government were going to let this man get away with it, and nor was Ghana. He was going to come back at some point. And so in the end he voluntarily returned. He was arrested at Heathrow Airport for the murder of these three. And then I think it was an interview, or in a couple of interviews, he didn't say much at first, but then he did speak to a psychiatrist, and he spoke to a couple of doctors, and it was in them interviews and that he told what really happened. So this Arthur Simpson-Kent, 49 at the time of these murders, he was a drug dealer, a cannabis dealer, and he did admit in court to bludgeoning and stabbing all three of these victims to death in their own home. So this is what the court know, he repeatedly battered her and her two boys to death. He then, and it was around the head and the neck, with a small axe. So there was the sharp end, and he bludgeoned her with the first bit. And I'm just outlining at the moment. I'm going to go into exactly what he says happened. And then he wrapped them in plastic after he killed them, wrapped them in plastic and sheets, and buried them in the garden. Now he said Sian was head down, didn't really know it was coming, and with the first blow made her unconscious. But when we look at the autopsies and we look at the pathologists and stuff like that, it looks like there had been some struggle between at least Sian and her oldest son, Zachary. The youngest boy looked like he had been just attacked in the bed and he was asleep, so he probably didn't know what was happening to him. But on the other two, there was indications of some form of fight back, or some form of where there had been restraints used before they were murdered. And that's, I would always believe, the autopsy and the pathologists and the them, rather than believe a murderer. And so I think she did know, and she probably knew that her sons were also going to be murdered on that night. It must have been terrible for this woman. Now don't forget, this woman was already terminal. It would have been much difficult for her to fight back and do anything really and save these children or herself from this man that was this narcissistic, aggressive killer at this point. He says that he went blank, and he just, like he came out of his body. He wasn't there, but he was there. Oh, he was there, and he knew he was there. This narcissistic man in him, he knew what he was doing, and he knew it, and he intended to kill. There was no way that this was an accident gone wrong or a suicide gone wrong. If you're going to do a suicide with your family, you wouldn't bludgeon them to death, knife them. That's not what would happen, especially when you're talking about your own children. The murder weapon has never been found, and I think the pathology evidence shows that Sian was killed first, and then it was the oldest child that was killed second, and then the youngest child was killed last. There was clear evidence of that. And again, it was repeated blows to the head and the neck with this blunt forced instrument, and then also with a bladed type instrument, which was the axe. He used both sides of the axe, the handle and the blade side of it, to kill these people. So in this killer's own words, now, when he was being interviewed, this is what he says happened that night. He says that, again, Sian had her head down. She was sitting in the kitchen and the head was down, and on the side, always kept on the side, was a small axe. And he just looked at her with her head down. She didn't know it was coming, and then he just bashed her once with this axe and made her unconscious, and then just kept on hitting and hitting and hitting her until she was dead. That's what he says. After that, he went blank, and he can't remember really, doing anything else. He doesn't talk much about what he done to the children. It's like he didn't do it to the children, but he talks about how he, she didn't know it was coming, and like approached from the side and started on the back of the head and hit her. Then he says about where he wrapped the bodies up in this plastic and stuff, and started then to bury them in the garden, and then get rid of all their other stuff, as I've said, to the charity shops and other places, and then make his way to texting people about her disappearance, and now he's trying to cover it up. And then he, even after doing that, he tried to really say that this woman was part of this and was willing to take her own children's life because she was terminal. I mean, this is a shocking predator. This is a person that's not only killed this woman and these children, he's tried to make her part of the blame of it, and she was no way ever part of any of this at all. This is in this sick man's mind, trying to get him a lesser sentence. Well, it didn't work. The jury at all didn't believe a word this man had to say. To tell you the truth, they didn't, and nor did the judge. So you have this psychiatrist now that I've said that has interviewed him, because you want to interview someone when they are, you want to find out whether they are insane, whether they have issues, what their defence would be really. Is it a defence that he was, diminished responsibility? No, there was none of that. There was no history of depression or anything in this man's life. I think the psychiatrist did say that he featured his features were consistent with someone who was narcissistic. He had this personality which was this grandiose idea of himself, and he believed really his own bullshit. And I think people see through that in the end, and you can see with him the way he tried to portray himself as this perfect person, even after these murders. He had this self-importance about himself, even though he was only a drug dealer, a cannabis dealer. She was the one that really had the intelligence. She was the one that had the go in life to go and train and do things and get a mortgage, pay for a home, look after her children. This man didn't have any of that, but he liked the look of it. He was married, wasn't he, or in a relationship with someone who had been a really good British actress. He liked that, but what he didn't like was, I suppose, her taking the notoriety for it, and she really didn't. She had retired from that, but he liked to live off that. And I think this, he was so arrogant, this man, even in interview, he was so arrogant, really arrogant man. And also he lacked all empathy, really, for even the killings, the murders of his own children. His way of dealing with it was, well, I don't really speak about that, but, I can't remember that bit, I've gone blank. But this narcissistic someone, when you try, and we've said this before with domestic abuse cases, where people are trying to leave these people, it's very, very difficult, and it's very, very dangerous. And so it's really good to really know about these domestic abusers, about your domestic abusers. Know their personalities. Know when to tell them you're going to do something or when not to. Because really she was murdered because she was going to leave him. And she told him because she wanted to give him time to find himself somewhere to live. That's the most dangerous thing to do with a narcissistic personality, is to be honest and put yourself at such risk of that, because they don't want the word no, they don't like it. He couldn't believe it. He's living off her fame, even though she wasn't famous at that point. In his mind, He's living off that, off what she does. He's probably even living off her income, to tell you the truth. So it's very difficult when you talk about domestic abuse cases, and I've had a lot of comments on here from people that work with domestic abuse and what a great job they do. And it's so difficult to give people advice or not give people advice, because until you really know each character of someone like this, it's difficult to give a rounded advice. You can't use just one piece of advice. Each case in domestic abuse's case has to be dealt with on its own merits, because these individuals can be so dangerous, really dangerous. And if someone, or like, that's why I would never tell anybody, and nor do I advise anyone, just to leave. You must seek help from professionals if you want to leave these people. They will know and want to know about this man's personality for this reason, because you wouldn't tell them then that you're leaving. You would just leave. You would go to the shop and never come back. There's different ways. So this case shows really this narcissistic character of this man that ended in him not only murdering her, but his own children, because she was going to leave him. And that's the only reason. Even though this woman was dying, she was terminally ill, he still wanted that power. And this is what domestic abuse is about: control and power. He couldn't even allow her to die herself naturally. He had to be the one to take it. It's shocking, really. Really shocking, this case, when you think about it. And this poor girl's family are devastated, and still devastated, because they knew she was terminal. They accepted that Sian wouldn't be here for very long. But what they couldn't get over was the death of an 8-year-old and a 4-year-old. It's shocking, this case. And for this man to do that and to take away their life because of this dislike or hatred for what she was doing, because she was leaving him, it's really, really bad. And I really feel sorry for this family. I really do. Because these poor children, the death they had as well, especially Zachary, the 8-year-old, it was terrible. Really terrible. I think on the 5th of October 2016, Arthur Simpson-Kent was sentenced to life in prison. And I think it was Mr. Justice Sian who sentenced Simpson-Kent to life in prison. And he was, I think, shocked. And this is a whole life sentence. This man ain't getting out. He isn't getting out. It's a whole life sentence. Meaning that he will not even become eligible for parole. He just can't have it. Now, I don't know why we don't use these whole life sentences, to tell you the truth, more in cases. And we've had a lot of them that could have easily have got full life sentences, and we don't use them. But in this case, it was, I think the judge just, there was no other way this man could be released out, because the minute you kill someone and you kill your own children, like what he did, and then tried to lie and get his way out of it, and his personality shone through, I think, in this case, and there's no empathy at all. You're letting a psychopath back out onto the streets if you let someone like this man out, and I think the judge knew that and understood that. And it's a whole life for him will mean whole life. And there's no tariff or minimum tariff or set tariffs for him at all. Life means life. Now, that doesn't mean to say that you're going to have some do-gooders 30 years down the line that wants to try and put this man back out. We just don't know. But at the moment, this judge, and it's held this case, it's a safe case, this case, and it's a total whole life sentence for this man. And thank God, actually, that this judge, Justice Sian, actually believed that this was what this man deserved and what this man should get. And I'm hoping that this is never going to bring these kids back, right, to this family. But I think it shows that justice here was done. this family is a lovely family who are suffering enough, and to have given this man a low sentence would have been awful for them. So in this case, I think the justice system has worked for them, absolutely. And I'm so pleased that it has. And I think on January the 6th, 2016, the Metropolitan Police actually referred itself to the Independent Police Complaints Commission over its handling of this inquiry. You know, because we can't have perpetrators like this doing a murder and going abroad and thinking that they can get away with it, and then the time and the money and stuff it costs. So I think in any murder now, I think especially whether it's domestic homicide or what it is that, you know, these scenes are secured quite quickly. You believe the family when the family is saying to you that she had not run away and took her children away. There was something wrong. And so the police have sorted out that. So hopefully now that really, I think that wouldn't happen again so much. It wasn't a long time, this issue. It wasn't, you know, it didn't go on for months and months and months, but it was enough time to have arrested him straight away, and even had him where then he can't leave the country, where they had then time to investigate this crime better. But I think overall, this crime was completed quite quickly. And I think for once I can sit here and say to you that the sentence that this man got is what he deserved. Really. And it's very rare, isn't it, that I can actually sit here and say to you, wow, you know, he's got life, meaning life in prison. So I hope you found this case interesting. I'm hoping I'll get some comments on it, and I wish you all well. And all the comments are lovely. I love them. And so thank you to the people that work with cases with domestic abuse, and with the people that are, you know, really struggling with domestic abuse as we're in this lockdown, and domestic abuse has gone up even more. So, you know, and I know you email me and you comment and stuff and say, great work, Chrissy. Well, great work to you. I think without the work that these charitable organisations do, and a lot of them are charitable because the money doesn't come from government, you know, a lot of it to support people with domestic abuse. These are charity-run organisations, and these people that run these organisations and work in these organisations deserve every credit. So I wish you all well, and you know, I hope you're enjoying these cases. I know you are. You tell me you are, and I hope, you know, it puts that awareness out there to people. So if you are suffering from domestic abuse, you can speak to someone, and you should speak to someone before making a decision about what's best for you to do. You need to talk to someone. It's always best to talk. You haven't got to sit in silence. You haven't got to put up with domestic abuse.